This is a story of how the Japanese bureaucracy can push a man to his absolute limits, force him to lug around a suitcase and a backpack in 90-degree weather, waste 4 days of paid time off, and I don't know how much money. So, yeah, I'm currently in my hotel room, AC full blast with a full belly and a clear head, and I'm about to tell you about the literal worst experience I have had in my year staying with Japan, and that is getting my Japanese driver's license. This has been an absolute nightmare of an experience, and I hope you guys enjoy hearing about it because I have not enjoyed a single moment of this start to finish. It has been a combination of everything I despise, meaningless bureaucracy. Sorry, this is not a non-smoking room. It has been a combination of everything I despise, meaningless bureaucracy, needless expenses, and me paying for someone else's mistakes. You name it, I've experienced it. This is the complete story of the crap I've gone through so far to get my license in all of its gory legal details. So let's start with some background. Fans of the channel may know that I am an English teacher currently working in Japan. I got my job through the JET program, which is a wonderful program that helps connect native English speakers with English teaching jobs in Japan. And if they want to hire you when they're trying to figure out where they want to place you, they ask you if you have a driver's license, so they know whether or not they can put you somewhere that requires that you have your license to drive to work. And of course, I said yes, so I was eligible to be put in a place that I would need my license for. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my placement. Awesome coworkers, lovely neighbors, everyone's nice to me, the nature is beautiful, but being placed on the smallest town in a remote island in Japan certainly has its downsides, and this is one of them. There are no trains or trams, and the bus is extremely infrequent, so if I want to get to the schools that I need to teach at, well, I need to drive, which means that I have to navigate the process for getting a license. Now, for the first year, it was easy. Just hop on down to my local AAA in America, get an international driver's permit, and bada bing, bada boom, for the first year, as long as you're holding this and your valid US driver's license, you're golden. You can legally drive for an entire year in Japan. But as a side note, the astute of you may have noticed that I was issued on July 23rd, 2022, which means that it expires on July 23rd, 2023. And I'm not uploading this way late. It's been expired for a month. And I know what you're thinking. In that case, wouldn't it be better to do all this before the license expired? So that way, even if you failed or something went wrong, you wouldn't be left stranded without a license? And yes, it would. Why am I doing it this way? Well, we'll get back to that. Now, once that permit expires, if you want a new one, you need to go back home for 3 months, which I can't do. And so the other option is to get a Japanese driver's license. Luckily, there's a legal process called the Gaimen Kirikae, where you can take your foreign license and convert it into a Japanese license in a process that's easier than taking driver's ed in Japan. Now, if you want to do that, you need to go through an interview and documents inspection, a written test, a driver's test, and then if you pass all that, finally, you just need to do some final, eye and ear checks to make sure that you're fit enough to drive, and then you're good to go. Now, there's a plus. There's a list of like 29 countries that if you are a member of one of those countries and you hold one of those countries' licenses, you don't even need to take the written and the driver's test. Just pass your document inspection. Japan says, hey, the driver's test you took over there was good enough. Here's your license. Now, I'm from the US, and the US is indeed on that list. Sort of. See, if you're not from the US, you may not know this, but instead of like a bunch of other countries where they issue driver's license on a national level, in the United States, each state government is responsible for administering its own driver's license test and distributing its own driver's license. Which means that every single state has to get their individual driver's license exams inspected and approved by the Japanese government before the Japanese government will acknowledge them as sufficient enough to not have to take the Japanese one. And of all 50 states, only 8 of them have done that, and they are Indiana, Ohio, Oregon, Colorado, Virginia, Hawaii, Maryland, and Washington. And Michigan, despite being home to the big 3 American automobile manufacturers, is not on that list. Ohio and Indiana to the south and Canada to the north, sure, no driver's test needed. But Michigan, screw me, I gotta take the test. So I need to prove myself on the driver's course, which, whatever, big deal, right? That's not so hard, huh? Well, we'll get to that in a second. So, according to the training that I have received from the Kagoshima Jets Authority, this is a horribly bureaucratic process, so it's best to start in February. So, I brought up to my supervisor in February, hey, I'd like to start thinking about getting my driver's license. The dude says, okay, don't worry, I'll handle it, I'll get back to you. May rolls around. I ask again. They say, oh shoot, we forgot. Make some frantic calls, figure it out that same day, and they get me an appointment scheduled for late August. Mind you, a full month after my IDP expires. And here we run into my first frustration. Due to the nature of the JET program being that you don't actually have to know any Japanese to work for it, the way it's set up is that your supervisor should be handling these sorts of things for you. As long as you let them know, they should be helping you out. So my frustration is that despite the fact that I gave my employers way, way advance notice about this sort of thing, due to their mistakes, I'm still having to go over a month without a car. Luckily, for 3 of those weeks, I was traveling, so I didn't even need a car, but it was still frustrating the 4th week to have to walk all the way down to the grocery store, buy my groceries, and lug them back. And to make matters worse, they tell me, oh, by the way, you have to use your vacation time for this. And when I said, hey, this license is mostly for work, like I checked on my application that I would be able to use a car for work. That's what this is for. Can I get some special time off, especially since I literally don't do anything when I'm sitting at my desk anyway? And they straight up said, no, this is your license. You need to use your paid time off. So that's, needless to say, frustrating. So I was told, hey, you have to use 2 days of your vacation time to take Thursday the 24th and Friday the 25th off. So cool, nothing I can do about that. Go in on the 24th, get my license, and at the end of the day, spend the night here in Kagoshima City, and then go home first thing Friday, easy peasy. It's currently Sunday. So here's the timeline. On Thursday the 24th, I wake up at 4 a.m. to make sure I have enough time to get everything together and make sure I got breakfast so I can walk to the bus to get there by 6:21, which takes an hour to get to the port, and the port takes an hour and a half by boat to get to Kagoshima City. And for some dumb reason, the entirety of Kagoshima Prefecture does not have to go to, I don't know, the capital city to take this exam. Instead, they have to go to Aida City, which is like an hour away from the port. I don't know why the entire prefecture has to meet in Podunk Town to get their license. Like, we have a driver's school on Tanegashima. Can I just go there? Guess not. Bureaucracy. So given all this, I wasn't actually early enough to walk the track and get a feel for how the course is going to be. Luckily, the Kagoshima Jet had an article detailing exactly what you need to do to get your license like this, and it also details the 2 courses, one of which you have to drive to pass the exam and get your license. So I did have some time to study it on paper beforehand. So because I had an appointment, they called my name, brought me to a little cubicle, and they started the interview/document inspection thing. And luckily, my coworker, when on the phone making the appointment, did get a list of exactly everything that they needed from me so that everything would go smoothly. But here's the second thing I'm going to tell you about that really grinds my gears. The whole bureaucracy of the, oh, we need these papers from you. Why? Because we do. Because the rules say so. Some of them make absolutely no sense. I have absolutely no idea how they related to me getting a license, but they said they needed them, so I guess they needed them. Basically, after confirming your identity, they wanted to know 3 things. 1, do you have a license? 2, have you lived in the country where you got your license for at least 3 months? Presumably so you don't immediately get your license and then try to apply for a Japanese one to circumvent the system or something. I don't know. And 3, are you indeed a Japanese resident? That all makes sense to me. That's fine. They want my driver's license, I give them that. I renewed my license right before coming to Japan, so they needed a copy of my driver's history from the Michigan DMV, and they also took a copy of my residence card. Okay. But then they wanted a separate proof of residency certificate, and every single passport that I've ever owned, and my plane ticket into the country? What? Why do they need those? Why? It's kind of funny. The Kagoshima Jet article that I've been using implies that it is ideal to lie to them about certain things so you don't have to present documents that make absolutely no sense. Like they want a copy of all of your licenses and all of your passports, but it literally said that some people just get away with saying, "Oh, well, this is my first one." So, as far as you know, it is all of them. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that for my license because it was renewed too late, but for my passport, that's exactly what I did. I have an older passport that I used to go to Canada a couple times when I was really young, but because I did not have it here and I really did not feel like telling my family to dig it up in the USA and mail it over to me, I literally just lied to them. For whatever reason, they were interested in every single piece of international travel that I'd ever done, and I just lied and said, "Yeah, I've never left America except for the time that I went to Japan right now. That's it." And because it's US documents, they have no way of verifying that or not. And as long as I keep my story straight, which I did, what are they going to do about it? But like the plane ticket, they wanted proof of exactly when I left America for Japan. Why did they want to know that? I don't know. Why couldn't they literally just look in my passport at the visa that says I have from July to October of 2022 to go from Chicago to Japan, and also look at the literal arrival sticker in Japan that cites the exact date that I arrived, and put two and two together to realize that, hey, I left from America and went to Japan on that day? Why can't they figure that out? I don't know. But yeah, just more BS bureaucracy of like, oh, we need this stamp and you don't have that, so it's not good enough. So instead, I gave them my plane ticket, which was good enough. And then for the interview process, they were asking me very interesting questions of like, where did you go to driver's school? How was the test that you took? How many questions were on the written test? How many questions were required to pass? I don't know these things. And I told him, I was like, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe like 70% required to pass. I'm not sure. He seemed to accept it. So, like, yeah, I was like, this is a long time ago, dude. Like, I don't know. I took this years ago. And then the last part of the interview just absolutely set me off. It was a questionnaire that asked pretty simple questions. But one of the question was, have you ever driven in Japan? Yes. Number two, have you ever been in an accident in Japan? No. Number three, have you ever committed any traffic violations? No. So they have this information. I have been driving in Japan and they know it's been for a year. They also know that I have not encountered, caused, or been the subject of any accidents, and I also have never committed any traffic violations. And yet still I have to reprove myself if I can drive or not. I've been doing it for a year, guys. Like, talk about a waste of everyone's time and money. For the most part, that ended up fine. The only other little hiccup was that despite following the exact instructions to purchase and print out at my local convenience store a copy of my Japanese translation of my license, for whatever reason, it had big ol' muko printed on it, which means invalid. And so it kind of gave my interviewer a pause, but he said he'd check it, and then he did, and then they didn't say anything about it afterwards, so I'm assuming it's fine, which is wonderful. Then it was up for the written test, and luckily they could make this a lot stupider, but it's not. It's like 10 questions, true or false. They present you with a situation, you say whether it's good or not, and it's all like, oh, I was overworked one day, but I still wanted to drive, and I drove anyway. Well, obviously, that's a no-go situation. Oh, I stopped in front of a fire station where it says no parking. Obviously, no go. So, did that. It came back. Easy peasy. 7 out of 10 to clear. Don't know what I got, but I passed. So then on to my actual driving skills test, which the heavens graced with a pouring thunderstorm. Not even making that up. So here I will give them a little bit of credit. Usually, you do your interview and your written test in one day, and then you schedule your driving test later. But because I am from an island, they did give me some slack and realized it's a little bit more ridiculous to have me come to the mainland on 2 separate occasions to do this. So they did let me take my driver's test right then and there. So congratulations. Could have been a lot stupider, but you weren't. But let me tell a little side story. I asked one of the other Jets on the island who did this whole process before how she did it. And she said, well, I went to the mainland on Friday, did my documents and written test that day, and then I practiced with a licensed instructor over the weekend, and then I tried the actual driving test on Monday, and I passed first try. And she said, look, the test is stupid, you're absolutely going to want to practice. And I agreed with her, I did, but I was told, hey, go Thursday and Friday. Do it Thursday, pass, come back Friday. I I'm glad they're confident in me, but I don't think my supervisors and coworkers understood exactly the implication of what they were telling me to do. Because here's the description from the Kagoshima Jet article of the actual test. The driving test is the most rigid interpretation of Japan's driving laws, and it requires a great deal of practice to memorize every motion of the two driving courses. It is possible to pass the first time, but most people take 3 or more attempts. So I did not have any time to practice at all, which, as you can imagine, is indeed crippling. I tried memorizing the courses on paper via map, but of course that's nothing that compares to the real thing. So the two courses look like this. So of course, I lost my way and did not know what turns were coming up, so I had to completely rely on the instructor, which generally would be fine if it wasn't so strict. See, I didn't know what turns were coming up until later than I would have liked, so it was too hard for me to get my turn signal on in time and get to the right part of the lane, which is actually important in order to turn properly. Now, needless to say, I failed. I asked the instructor afterwards what I did wrong, and he initially just said, you need to learn the rules more, which I'm like, thanks, dude. You suck, basically. But I kind of pressed him more, and he said, well, you were taking your turns too wide, and so bicycles might be able to hit you. But I'd heard it before, but didn't realize what it meant until I looked it up later and asked a few people what the heck that guy was talking about. So, okay, let's imagine for a second that I'm the car, my shoulders are the car, and this is the lane. If you're turning left in America, you would do this, and then you would turn left in the center of the lane because you don't want to hit anything on the other side. You want to, decrease that chance as much as possible. But in Japan, you are not supposed to be here. You are supposed to be here. Because a cyclist might try and come scoot up behind you, and then if you turn left, they'll run into you. Let me say that again. You are supposed to scoot to the left side of the lane if you want to turn left, because you are supposed to prevent a cyclist from sneaking up beside you and running into you as you turn. That's the sort of thing I was getting penalized for. That's the sort of thing that made me lose all my points. That's the sort of thing that made me fail. I got dinged because I was not driving in such a way that would prevent other people from doing illegal things. How was that my fault? So luckily, you can try again as many times as you want. Certain prefectures give you like a 2-month penalty, where if you fail, you have to wait 2 months until you can try again. But Kagoshima says, hey, any weekday, come back 8:30 a.m., and you can try again. So I did. First thing, Friday morning, a friend of mine was kind enough to let me stay at his place, so I got up before he woke up, took my stuff, lugged it all to Aida City again, and tried it again the next day. This time trying to keep in mind the whole hug the side of the lane thing. But before I tried, I ran into another problem. Turns out the article that I was using have the old courses. It is outdated. So the courses I was trying to memorize were wrong, and I didn't realize that until after the first person took their test and did something completely different. So I asked the other people that were about to take their tests, and they were like, oh God, yeah, you're wrong. So they took me inside, showed me in the binder what the course was, and luckily the course was a lot easier to understand, but I didn't have like any time to look at it. So I still needed directions from the instructor themselves, which meant that I was spending less brain power focusing on doing the actual course, which means that apparently I made the exact same mistake of turning too wide, despite the fact that I was making sure to check for bicycles. Doesn't matter. Even though I checked for bicycles and made sure that there was absolutely no possible way for any of them to sneak up on me, I still was driving too wide, so that's dangerous. What if one stuck up on you? And like, this is the crux of the thing that just boils my blood. I am not doing this for fun. I am doing this because it is my job. I am a school teacher who cannot drive to his job unless he has a license. I didn't come to Japan to party. I'm not drinking at the karaoke every weekend. I barely use my car for personal purposes. It's mostly for my job. The country of Japan wanted me to come to Japan and teach its kids. No joke. I'm a public teacher. I work for the Japanese government. And yet, because I don't check for and block out bicycles coming from my left side when I make a left turn, despite the fact that other than that, I am a completely proven to be safe driver, I cannot get my license to do my job. And instead, I have to spend all this money, all this time, all this stress. I need to call up the ferry office and have them change my ticket. I have to call up my hometown's travel agency and ask them to do me the favor of finding me a hotel for the next 4 nights starting today. I have to go to a driver's school and pay the person 10,000 yen an hour just to show me the stupid tricks of the trade that weren't really available online. I just got back from 3 weeks of traveling and I had a blast, but I just want to return to my day-to-day routine, you know? I don't want to be spending 6 days in Kagoshima City. I don't want to be recording and editing this week's YouTube video on my cell phone in a hotel room. I want to be at home, chilling out, enjoying the rest of my summer vacation, so that when classes actually start at the end of this coming week, I am refreshed and ready to go. But no, instead, I'm here, stressed as all get out, just because the government wants me to check some stupid boxes in order to get my license. So here I am in my hotel. It's currently 3:39 p.m. on a Sunday. I can try again tomorrow, and I am confident, because I did do the practice, that I will be able to actually pass. But, like, what if I don't? I'm going to have to call up the ferry office again, postpone it again, call up the frickin' travel agency and say, hey, can you maybe find me another hotel? And God forbid, if it continues through this entire week, classes will start. Like, I need to be there to teach, but if I can't drive, like, what am I supposed to do? But yeah, luckily, my instructor was very thorough. He showed me how to drive course 1 first, and then he watched me drive course 1 2 times, and then watched me drive course 2 2 times. He told me I was doing well and that I would probably pass, which is reassuring. But the frustrating thing is that he did not let me try it on my own and then correct me. He told me exactly what to do all the time. So I don't know if I was doing things late and he constantly had to remind me, or if he was just wired to tell everybody exactly what to do all the time. So yeah, like I said, he told me I was doing well and implied that he thought I would pass, and for everyone's sake, I hope to God that he is right. So where do we go from here? Well, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., I'll be back in Aida City, taking the test again. And when I pass, I will have to chill there until 1 p.m., where I will do the final little check out, make sure my eyes work properly, my ears work properly, and then I will be able to get my license finally. And if and when I do that, I will be taking myself out for some shaved ice afterwards, and when that happens, I will 100% be taking a picture of it and posting it to Instagram with the results. So if you are at all interested in checking that out and knowing whether or not I pass, I recommend you check out my Instagram as well as my other stuff. Sorry about the scuffed video again this week, folks. I hope you found it enjoyable, and I'll see you next week. Bye.